My name is Ariana. I've been married to Hudson for over 17 years, and for most of that time, we lived in a cozy apartment provided through the real estate firm where I work as an appraiser. Our son, Whan, has already graduated from college and moved out, leaving Hudson and me to face the quiet emptiness of being so-called empty nesters. For years, Hudson maintained a steady office job, and our marriage felt predictable, maybe not deeply passionate, but stable. At least, that's how it once seemed. Lately, however, something had shifted. Hudson's constant critiques of my actions, whether it was the way I cooked, the clothes I wore, or how I arranged the furniture, had grown sharper, more frequent, and harder to dismiss. Each remark chipped away at me, but I clung to the hope that it was just a temporary phase, perhaps a side effect of the changes in our lives after Whan left. As my 52nd birthday drew near, I decided to do something that might rekindle the warmth between us. We planned a celebration, inviting friends and family to a charming restaurant. I thought maybe, just maybe, being surrounded by loved ones would remind Hudson of what truly mattered and give us both a chance to reconnect. Invitations went out, the restaurant was reserved, and I told myself this evening would be a new beginning. On the day of the party, I greeted guests with smiles and polite laughter, trying to mask the unease that tugged at me. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves, but I noticed immediately that my parents hadn't arrived. That was unusual. They were always punctual, especially for events that meant something to me. After half an hour of waiting, anxiety gnawed at me. I slipped away from the cheerful noise of clinking glasses and chatter, stepping into the quiet of the restaurant hallway. With trembling hands, I dialed my mother's number. "Where are you guys?" "The party started," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady, though my stomach was twisting with worry. There was a pause, a heavy silence that made my heart pound faster. Then, in a voice choked with grief, my mother whispered, "Ariana, darling. I'm so sorry, your father passed away this morning." The word struck like a blow. For a moment, the air left my lungs. I leaned against the wall, struggling to believe what I had just heard. "No, that can't be true," I managed to stammer, but the sorrow in her voice, the raw pain, confirmed the unbearable reality. She admitted she hadn't wanted to tell me today, fearing it would ruin my celebration. The weight of her words pressed down on me, and I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. When I returned to the dining area, my face pale and tear-streaked, Hudson immediately noticed something was wrong. He leaned toward me, lowering his voice. "What is it?" "My father," I gasped through sobs. "He's gone. He passed away this morning." Hudson blinked, his expression unreadable, then finally said, "That's terrible, Ariana, but we can't cancel the party now. Everything's been paid for, and it wouldn't be fair to our guests." His words sliced through me. I stared at him in disbelief, unable to process how the man I had shared my life with for nearly 2 decades could be so cold, so utterly detached from my pain. I stood, my legs trembling but my resolve firm. "I have to be with my mother," I announced to the room. "Please, everyone, stay and enjoy the evening." As I made for the door, Hudson called after me, his voice filled with annoyance rather than concern. "You're being dramatic. You can visit her tomorrow." I didn't look back. Fury and heartbreak mingled inside me as I rushed into the cool night air, my heels clattering against the pavement as if echoing the crumbling foundation of my marriage. At my childhood home, I found my mother sitting alone in the dimly lit living room, clutching one of my father's sweaters as though it were the last piece of him she could hold on to. Her eyes were red and swollen, her body trembling with grief. I sank beside her, and we embraced tightly, both of us sobbing, the silence of the house filled only by the sound of our heartbreak. In that moment, I realized everything had changed. My father was gone, and the man I thought would stand by me through life's storms had revealed a heart of stone. The funeral arrived, heavy with sorrow. Whan stood beside me, his quiet presence steadying me as we accepted condolences. Yet as I looked out at the sea of faces, my eyes searched in vain for Hudson and his parents. They were not there. Their absence was like a gaping wound, a betrayal deeper than I could put into words. Later, as we gathered at my mother's home after the service, Whan pulled me aside, his face filled with confusion. "Mom, where's Dad, and Grandma and Grandpa?" he asked. I could only shake my head, my voice bitter and weary. "I don't know, honey, they didn't come." His jaw tightened in frustration, and I could hardly blame him. That evening, when the guests had left and the house fell silent again, I called Hudson, anger simmering beneath my grief. Where were you today? I demanded. His excuse came easily, almost rehearsed. He claimed that he and his parents had all gotten sick, supposedly from something they ate at my birthday dinner. The timing was laughably convenient. All three of you? I shot back. You couldn't make it to my father's funeral. Do you realize how that looks? How that feels? His apology was hollow, his voice devoid of any true remorse. I hung up before I said something I could never take back. Weeks passed. My mother's health spiraled downward as she sank into depression, and I found myself stretched thin, balancing work with her care. Hudson grew more irritable, more distant, his patience evaporating with each passing day. One evening, he suggested coldly, "Maybe it's time we put her in a nursing home." My heart clenched with outrage. No, she doesn't have much time left, and I want to be with her. The argument dragged on for days until I finally proposed moving into my mother's larger house so I could care for her properly. Hudson balked at the idea, his lip curling with disdain. "I'm not obligated to take care of a sick stranger," he snapped. I pleaded, reasoned, argued. Finally, when I mentioned the financial benefits, no rent, no groceries to buy, he reluctantly agreed, though his tone made it clear he was doing it for money, not compassion. When we moved in, Hudson admired the house, praising its spacious rooms and beautiful renovations. He even bragged about the move to his colleagues, conveniently omitting the real reason for it. But beneath the surface, resentment festered. He avoided my mother, complained about the smell of sickness that lingered in the halls, and grew harsher with his words until I barely recognized him anymore. Then came the night my mother, frail but determined, gathered her strength at the dinner table. "Ariana, Hudson," she began softly, "I want to thank you both for taking care of me. I know it hasn't been easy." Hudson barely looked up. "I want to show my appreciation," she continued. "Hudson, I'd like to give you the land this house is built on. Ariana, the house itself will be yours, and any money left, it will go to Whan." Hudson's head snapped up, his eyes gleaming with greed. Within moments, he was on his feet, fetching a bottle of wine, declaring, "Let's celebrate." As he poured himself a glass, I heard him mutter under his breath, "Maybe the old gal will kick it sooner rather than later." I froze, horror clawing at me. "How dare you?" I spat, standing so abruptly that my chair crashed to the floor. He sneered, dismissing my fury, and soon the argument escalated into a storm of insults and accusations that had been years in the making. Finally, he stormed out, vowing to stay with his parents. Weeks later, when I had to leave for an urgent business trip, my mother urged me to place her temporarily in hospice care. It broke my heart, but I agreed, knowing it was safest for her. I sent Hudson a brief message the night before I left, "Going on a business trip, please look after the house." I didn't expect a reply, and none came. 5 days later, my phone rang. Hudson's voice slithered through the line, laced with malicious glee. "Hello, Ariana, guess what I've done? I've demolished your precious house." Watching the walls fall and the roof collapse was spectacular. My blood turned cold. "You did what? Why would you do that?" His answer was chilling, "Because now you'll have to rely on me to build a new one, on my land." "That's right, my land. Your mother gave it to me, remember? You'll be dependent on me, Ariana, just like a good wife should be." I stood frozen, the phone pressed to my ear, my heart pounding, and then, without warning, a laugh burst from my throat, a raw, hysterical laugh that echoed through the emptiness of my hotel room. Hudson faltered on the line. "Why are you laughing? This isn't funny, Ariana." But deep inside me, something had shifted, something he could no longer control. "Oh, Hudson," I said, every syllable deliberate, "you really are a fool. Mom changed her mind at the last minute. She didn't trust you, not after the way you treated her. She switched it. The house may have been yours, or rather, it was yours, but the land, that belongs to me." For a long moment, all I heard on the line was silence. It was so complete I wondered if he'd hung up. Then, faintly, his voice reached me, small and disbelieving. "You're lying." "I'm not," I replied, the weight of the truth settling over me like a protective shield. My shoulders loosened, tension draining as relief washed through me. "And Hudson," I paused, feeling the words burn as they left my lips, "I want a divorce." The line went dead. My hand trembled as I lowered the phone, heart pounding in the aftershock. It was only then, in the silence of my own living room, that the full horror struck me. Hudson hadn't even known Mom was in hospice. He had been ready to demolish the house without hesitation. willing to risk her being inside, all for his own twisted revenge. That thought steeled me. I wasted no time. The very next day, I went to the courthouse and filed for divorce. Hudson fought back with all the venom I expected, claiming the land on the grounds of Mom's earlier verbal promises. But I was ready. I had the paperwork, her signed, updated documents, proof of her last-minute change of heart. The legal battle dragged on, bitter and grueling. His lawyers twisted every angle, but I refused to be broken again. In the end, justice was on my side. The judge ruled in my favor, granting me ownership of the land and leaving Hudson with nothing but the rubble of his own making. Through it all, Whan stood by me, my son, his son too, though Hudson had never truly deserved that title, was shaken by the revelations. He did what? Whan's face had gone pale when I told him, his voice cracked, disbelief twisting into anger. I can't believe it. I'm done with him, Mom. I want nothing to do with him. The finality in his words was like a door slamming shut. He severed ties that night, cutting himself free from his father's poisoned grasp. After the dust of court settled, I sold the land. The proceeds weren't extravagant, but enough to buy a modest apartment of my own, a place that finally felt safe. My focus turned to Mom. Her health slipped rapidly, but I was there every day, sitting at her bedside, holding her hand, listening to her faint stories until her voice faded into silence. She passed away with me beside her, her last breath peaceful. Her funeral was small, private. Hudson and his family were conspicuously absent, but their absence was a strange relief. I didn't need their shadows hovering over my grief. Weeks later, while sorting through Mom's things, I felt a nagging emptiness, like something wasn't right. That feeling hardened into fury one evening when, browsing aimlessly on eBay, I stumbled across listings I knew too well: her antique porcelain vase, her favorite armchair, even the pearl necklace Dad had given her on their 27th anniversary, all for sale, all stolen. I knew instantly who was behind it: Hudson. The next morning, my car roared down the road toward his parents' house, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. I wasn't going to let him take the last fragments of my family away. When the door opened, it was my former father-in-law standing there. His appearance startled me. His skin was sallow, his frame shrunken, a shadow of the robust man I once knew. I forced myself to steady my breathing, smoothing the tremor in my voice until it came out calm, but cold as ice. "Are you all right?" I asked, the words escaping before I could stop them. His lips curled into a sneer. "I'm perfectly healthy, unlike your parents." The cruelty of it stung, but I swallowed it down. "I'm sorry," I muttered, though the apology was empty. My real purpose hardened on my tongue. "I've seen my mother's things online. I want them back." His wife appeared beside him, her face a mask of false sympathy. "Oh, Ariana, dear," she cooed, "those things belong to us now. The house was Hudson's when your mother passed." My anger boiled over. "That's not how this works. Those heirlooms are mine, my family's history. I want them returned, now." They refused. Their words grew sharper, mine louder. Soon the argument spilled out onto the porch, bitter and venomous, until at last they slammed the door in my face. But I wasn't finished. I drove straight to the police station, filed a report, and armed with the law on my side, forced their hand. Reluctantly, Hudson's parents returned everything: the pearls, the furniture, the little keepsakes of my mother's life. Each piece felt like reclaiming a part of her. 7 months passed. Slowly, life found a new rhythm. The scars were still there, but healing had begun. And then, without warning, word came that my former father-in-law had died. Cancer, advanced, untreatable. Despite our bitterness, I felt a pang of sympathy. No one deserved to suffer that way. Still, sympathy did little to soften the tension when I was summoned to the reading of his will. The air in the notary's office was thick with hostility. Hudson refused to meet my eyes. His mother glared at me with undisguised hatred. "How dare you even show your face here, you gold digger," she spat as I sat down. Whan squeezed my hand beneath the table. I sat tall and silent. The will's reading was a shock. Whan inherited the house. Hudson and his mother received the land and the money. Hudson exploded. "This is outrageous. Everything should have been ours. We're his real family." The notary, calm and unmoved, simply said, "The will is binding. It cannot be contested." As we left, I saw Whan's face was distant, unreadable. I didn't press him. I knew he'd speak when he was ready. 3 weeks later, I got the frantic call. "Ariana, Please, your son has gone mad, my former mother-in-law wailed. He's got bulldozers tearing down the house. I rushed there, my stomach knotted with dread. The scene was chaos. Heavy machinery groaned as it tore into the walls. Dust filled the air. Whan stood firm, his face set like stone, ignoring the shouts of his father and grandmother. "Mom," he said when I reached him, his voice steady, resolute. "I know this looks extreme, but it's justice, for what they did to Grandma's house, for everything." I looked into his eyes and saw the truth of his pain, his anger, his need to reclaim power. "I know, sweetheart," I whispered, "I'm not here to stop you." And so I watched as the house crumbled, piece by piece. The cries of Hudson and his mother were drowned out by the crash of timber and glass. And strangely, amid the destruction, I felt release. Weeks later, they appeared on my doorstep, ragged, desperate. "Ariana," Hudson began, his tone pleading, "we have nowhere to go, can we stay with you?" His mother chimed in, eyes wet with false tears, "You've always been so kind, please." The audacity left me speechless. "No," I said finally, the word sharp as a blade, "absolutely not." Their faces fell, but I pressed on, years of pain surging through me. "You tried to destroy me, you stole from me, you treated my mother like nothing, and now you dare ask for my help? No, you made your choices, now you live with them." I shut the door, and this time, it stayed shut. Later, through friends, I heard Hudson had sold the land and bought a crumbling apartment in a bad part of the city. It seemed fitting. Meanwhile, my life grew, my career thrived, my apartment filled with warmth, and one night, as I touched the smooth wood of Mom's writing desk, I felt her presence, steady and proud. The phone rang. Mom, Whan's voice was bright, excited. I proposed to Melody. She said yes. Tears stung my eyes. "Oh, sweetheart, that's wonderful." He hesitated before adding, "And Mom, I don't want Dad or Grandma at the wedding. I want the day filled with love, not their poison." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "It's your day, Whan, and you're right, you deserve joy." When the call ended, I looked at my parents' photo on the desk. "I hope you see this," I whispered, "I hope you're proud." And in the quiet, I felt they were.